All right, guys, so we started building our warm-up last week. We're gonna work on finishing that today and kind of construct something that's really easy to do in any kind of space that you have. We're gonna work this as a component towards whether you're gonna do lightsaber as a martial art or you wanna start spinning, whatever. I wanna kind of give you a toolbox to be able to do that. So we're gonna run class till about 11. I'm gonna give Kenny just a little bit longer to come in because he did class last week and was really excited about joining us this week. Anybody that's following along, you don't need a lightsaber. It can be a stick, it can be an umbrella, it can be anything that is sort of like generically the right shape. It doesn't need to be heavy, doesn't matter. But I'd love anybody that wants to join in, I'd love to have you join in. Oops, hold on. Nothing's broken. All right, class is in session. Here we go. So, 3 things we worked on last week that we're going to start with. Kenny, you made it. All right. So the first one is the overhead strike and stop. And so we want to have some kind of target. We want to have some kind of object that we're sort of sighting. And we're going to stop about that far away, okay? And so depending on what object and other things, one of the reasons it's really important to be able to stop a pretty good distance is that if your object has wobble, then when you stop, the end is still gonna move. You wanna have enough play, you wanna have enough space where if there's wobble, you're not whacking your partner in the head, okay? And so that's where we start from. I'm gonna lift, and I wanna stop about that far away. I'm gonna do 10 of those. That was 1, there's 2, 3, 4. You can see the motion control, unfortunately, is a little bit sensitive at the settings that we have it at the moment, so it keeps turning itself off and on again, but that's okay. 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Okay? Now, next one we did, I'm actually going to move to the end. And the one that we did last, we're going to do next. And this is one hand at a time. Now, last week, Kenny had a really good question because we focused on using the left hand, the anchor hand. We focused on using that one one-handed to kind of get used to the path that the weapon's got to take. And he asked about the other hand. And so we're gonna do both today because it's only 10 reps, so it's not a big deal. What we wanna do is from parallel to high guard, just lefty. And then remember, we put lefty into the fist, okay? What's up, man? And so I wanna take the bottom of the weapon, whatever I happen to be using, even if it's, like I said, even if it's an umbrella, put it inside the fist, okay? For everybody that's just sliding in, lightsaber class is now Fridays at 10:30 from 10:30 to 11. Don't have to have a lightsaber, you can bring a stick, whatever, okay? But so what I'm gonna do with lefty, I come up, that's my high guard position. So it's not flat and it's not back, it's at an angle, okay? Then I'm gonna bring my hand slowly down until I reach parallel to the floor. And that's gonna be the blade path I wanna have, okay? And so we have from the high, down to parallel. That's 2, I need to do 8 more. Ready? 3, 6, 7, 8, 9, and then 10. And one of the things you want to do as you do this is make sure you have pauses at the top and at the bottom. So you're not just swinging the arm smooth. Okay, pause at the top, pause at the bottom. That's going to help you develop the muscle that we need. All right. Something I didn't talk about last week, we're going to talk about today. As your arms go up, you want your shoulder blades to go back and down your spine. Okay. I would love to be on the podcast soon. Side note, real quick, everybody. I know Kenny's still here, and then Pod One's podcast. They are both friends of mine. You should follow them. Nice people, and we have been mutuals for, at this point, like a half decade, I think, maybe longer. Yeah, it's 2026 now, isn't it? All right. But so hands go up, shoulder blades go down. If you're using a mirror or if you're using the camera, and as you lift your hands, if your shoulders come up, if your shoulder blades come up, as your hands come up, you're not going to be using enough of your core muscles. You're going to be using a lot of neck and a lot of shoulder, and that'll be it. And that doesn't give you really good structure. You'll also fatigue a whole lot faster. Okay, so we've done just left hand. Now we're going to do just right hand. Now this one is probably going to be a little easier, since instead of being at the very, very bottom, since we're a little bit higher up, the lever that we're trying to control, it's shorter. The pivot point is in a different spot, so it doesn't require as much leverage. So you're going to find not only is your dominant hand going to be more comfortable doing this, but just the physics that's involved, it makes it so that it's not as difficult. All right, and so I go from parallel, up, down to parallel, up, down to parallel. I already lost count. We're just going to start over. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Now, those last couple, my wrist kind of did this at the bottom. And that's something that if you catch yourself doing that often, you want to make sure you get yourself to just stop. Okay, because the places where you're going to put pressure on your body are places that you don't want to overexert. You got to be kind of mindful of that. You don't want to screw up your own tendons trying to get your muscles stronger. Okay, now something we talked about at the end of class last time, all right, is as I'm doing my overhead cut, I get some type of vertical visual guide. So I was actually using the corner of the room. You can't see it, it's off camera, but where the two walls meet, because that is a generally square vertical line. And so as my arms are moving through the path with the blade, I'm tracking that to try to keep myself online so I can practice that, okay? Now, the last part of our warm-up, okay, is we're gonna just do 10 cuts, okay? 10 of the overhead cuts. And so for these, we're gonna start middle guard. And middle guard, what you're doing when you line up with your partner is you're taking the tip and you're pointing it at this person right about here. And we'll talk about why and why that's one of our spots later. But you're gonna point right about here. And the other person is gonna also point right about here as they're facing you. And so then what happens, Kat, good to see you. One of the things that happens is if I'm a little taller, they're a little shorter. If my weapon's a little shorter, if their weapon's a little longer, whatever. By spacing ourselves that way, all right? If the ends of our sabers are almost touching, it's gonna create a triangle that balances, our relative reach, right? So if you're taller, you have more reach. If you have longer arms, you have more reach. If you have a longer weapon, you have more reach. And so what happens is it's gonna balance us so that we are each about one step away from being able to attack the other person, okay? And then in the case of if you've got a longer weapon and you're taller and you've got longer arms and all that other stuff, the other person may not be able to position close enough that they can get one step, but it's still kind of, it balances everybody's like relative differences. Okay. Now, for everybody that's just jumping in, because our numbers just about doubled there just a second ago, Saber class is Fridays. We're going to go 10:30 to 11. Last week and this week we've been building the warm up, and we're going to keep doing that for a little bit. And then once we kind of got ourselves established, we're going to start building things off of that, so that we're learning good strike habits. We're learning how to do some of the basic spins and other things like that. Working on getting everybody's stuff into their toolbox, so they can kind of practice on their own and improve. And then the class will go up on YouTube every week. So then folks that are following me there or in some of my other places, they'll be able to like do this on their own, come back to it, practice it, all that kind of stuff. All right, so our last thing, I'm gonna get a visual guide. So I've got a vertical guide. And I'm gonna go from parallel to my middle guard, up to high guard, and then I'm gonna do a vertical strike and stop parallel. One. Okay, hold on 1 second. Rabia, I don't know who you are. I'm sorry, I'm gonna decline that invitation. All right, so we're trying to be as clean a cut as possible and relax motion through. One, middle guard, high guard. Two, three, four, five, six, seven, 8, 9, 10. Now, from the angle that you guys are, it probably looks like I'm ending up at a slightly downward slope. Okay. Go ahead, Kat. Ask your question. Da, 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 da. Yeah. Let's see if this works. I'm gonna try that. There we go. All right, Kat, what's your question?
Hi, Alan.
Hey.
I feel like my hands are pretty weak. Are there like some hand stretches that I can do, or like any type of strengthening I can do? Because I've noticed like when I try and spin or do things, like it doesn't. What's the word I want to use? Like a spin does not. I feel like my hand doesn't go back far enough for it to make a full clean spin.
Okay, so it's a mobility thing more than a strength thing. It sounds like
That mobility, and then with the strength, I would say that I notice like if I were to hold my hand up and it's just the weight on my hand, it does get tired pretty quick and it'll shake.
Okay.
So that's why I'm wondering if there's like some stretching or things you can do with hands.
So think about it in terms of like leveling up in a video game. And so if you're working with your lightsaber or you're working with something else, whatever, and you're getting fatigue really early, then what that tells you is it's like, oh, I'm using a weight that's a little bit too heavy for where I'm at right now. And so then find something that weighs a little bit less and start from there.
Okay.
Right? And so like, I've got a wrapping paper tube here from some of the videos in December. Right, and so like this, the weight is never going to be an issue when I'm using this. The issue is going to be the fatigue that I get from all the different motions for the spins. And so then I'll have the stamina to be able to like practice the motion, right? Like if my muscles get tired from holding the weight first, I don't get to practice the motion enough to make improvements. If my muscles get tired from practicing the motions, then like I'm going to continue to develop skill over time. And so that's like, so like umbrella, I'm trying to think what other things that a lot of people might have that are like the right shape, but a decrease in weight, right? You could even, I mean, like, you could get a dowel rod, like a 1-inch dowel would not be very heavy, and then just get it cut to length at the hardware store.
I think that's what Courtney told me to practice with.
It's helpful, and then also when you drop it, it wasn't expensive.
Yeah, because I have my beautiful baselet, and
Yeah.
I don't want to.
Well, if you're practicing on hard surface, like drops are like they're rough. I'm standing on a mat, so it's like it helps that like anytime I drop anything, I got some cushion. But even just like because wrapping paper tubes are not very durable anymore because it's like the thick paper at the center instead of cardboard. Ryan, good to see you. But if you just like you get it, keep it wrapped in plastic and practice with that as the dexterity stuff.
Okay.
And it'll keep its shape really well. It won't be expensive, and then after you're done with it, you can use it as wrapping paper.
Okay.
Does that help?
That helps. And then the other question I was going to ask you is if someone wanted to get a blade that they could start with through this process of you teaching, what's like your most basic cheap model that they could get?
I've got an $89 thing right now that's like a super trimmed down, like just the basics. And so like it still uses the app and some other stuff, but since it is less features, I can make it as inexpensive as possible. But then it also means that there's fewer things that can go wrong with it. So it's really good for this kind of process.
But we could fight a tree with it if we wanted to.
100%. You could run it over with a car.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
All right.
Awesome. I'm proud of you for doing this. This is amazing.
And we're just going to kind of see how this goes. I would love it if I make every Friday from now until the end of the year. I don't know what's going to happen when I have conventions. I'll have to make a plan for that, but we'll figure that out.
All right. Hey, some of us nerdy women want to learn some self-defense, even if it's with a stick.
Hey, it's the toolbox is there.
Thank you, my friend.
Kid Bash, you should not run your beam saber over with a car, especially because it's the super cool beam saber, and we don't want that to happen to that one. You could run your blade over. Don't run over the handle. It would make it less pretty. I mean, I get okay. If you're looking for like a distressed look, that's a good way to get it. But please don't do that. That's not good.
I'm gonna drop down, Alan. It was so good to talk to you.
Okay.
Thank you.
So, you're welcome. Now we're gonna do 10 cuts. Where remember, I want to get a visual guide so that I keep myself as straight, as vertical as possible, and then as I do them, okay. And then you're gonna notice a lot of times in the videos and in the instruction, I'm going to keep my fingers pointing out, and that's so that you can see what my hands are doing, because I'm going to be pretty far away, and so then it's hard to see some of the nuance of what I'm doing with my grip. And so when I do the overhead strike, what happens is my hands actually turn just a little bit as I'm cutting. Okay. And part of the reason for that, this is hard to show on camera, but it's right now, if I make contact, this part of my hand is what is lined up with the handle. And what I want to do is this hand twists just a little bit so that now the web of my hand is supporting my strike through. Okay. So that's that part of the warm up. Now we're going to add something. All right. And so things we have so far. Okay. We have stop. We have one hand. We have other hand. And then we have the cuts where we stop parallel and we give the hands a little bit of a twist. Okay, that's what we've done so far. Yeah. I apologize, guys. I'm recovering from something, so my voice is a little janky today. So now we're going to do some footwork. Okay, and the way we are going to do footwork is with the hands in high guard, not from for an application kind of reason, but it's a strengthening reason. Okay. And so what I'm going to do is I position the hands in high guard. Okay. And so for high guard, I have backward sloping angle. For middle guard, I have forward sloping angle, and I'm trying to line up kind of on the person's like right about where their jugular notch would be. Okay. We'll worry about some of the other guards later. And so from high guard, and this is going to make me practice keeping my shoulder blades in the right position. Okay. If I lift up in a high guard and my shoulders come up, my arms are going to get tired exponentially faster. Okay. And so what I want to do is shoulder blades going down my spine as I lift up. And then this allows me to support the weight of my weapon and my own arms with my core and my legs instead of having to do it with my deltoids. Okay? And so our footwork. We have two footworks we're going to work first. The first one is the pull step. And so for the pull step, I'm going to take my front foot, it goes out, and I pull the back foot back in. It's really similar to the mechanics for a fencer's lunge. Okay? And the pull step either goes forward or backwards. Okay? So I would go like 28 inches, Cat. Like 28 or 30. Because if it's a little long, that's fine. You can trim it when you get home. So actually, yeah, go 30 or 32. And then if you need to cut an inch or two off of it at home, that won't be very difficult. All right. Now, vertical. And now my pull step, that front foot goes out, back foot gathers in. And then as I'm going backwards, back foot steps out, front foot pulls back to it. Okay? And so that's our pull step. And so for that, I'm going to lift up. Okay? And so if that footwork makes sense, now we're going to do 10 of them. Okay? Favorite Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtle, Leo. One, two, three, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Switch feet. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Now, while you're doing that, if you start to feel a pinch in between your shoulder blades, kind of hard to show. I'm gonna have to start having somebody come in so I can point. Oh, we got Bob. We'll use Bob. All right, Bob is significantly more ripped than me and more ripped than most gymnasts. And so your shoulder blades are like here and here. And so as your arms go up, you want your shoulder blades to kind of slide back and down towards your spine. And so if you feel a muscle kind of in between your shoulder blades, like pinching, okay, you're doing it right. That's where you want to be. Okay. So that's the pull step. I'm going to go just a little bit longer today because we had the long pause for the question, and I want to finish up the footwork. And so for somebody that just asked in the chat, Saber class is 10:30 to 11 Eastern. And so that's 9:30 to 10 Central, 8:30 to 9 Mountain, and then 7:30 to 8 Pacific time. I may have to rethink this a little bit. This is we'll figure it out. We're going to learn. Okay. But so there are two other footworks. We're only going to mess with one of them today. And this is the shuffle step. And so for the shuffle, what you're going to do is, again, we're going from high guard because part of this is to help us practice doing our high guard correctly. Because if you're doing high guard up here and your deltoids start burning 8 seconds in, okay, it's to make you practice doing it right because the muscles are too tired to do it wrong. All right. And now I won't be sticking my fingers out for this one because my hands aren't doing anything. I'm just keeping them up there. All right. Now, so for the shuffle, I'm going to bring the back foot in and then the front foot out. And so feet come together, feet come apart. It's the opposite of the pull step. 1, 2, 1, 2. And that's the shuffle. Okay. Ready? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Then we switch feet. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. All right, now we're going to talk about feet. As you're doing this, you want to keep your feet underneath you. Okay, so when I turn sideways, it's tough to get depth perception with a single camera. So I don't want one foot in front of me, more of my weight over that foot, so that then there's 1 foot behind me. I want to have my feet beneath me, and so I feel both feet kind of evenly on the ground, and you want to feel the whole of the bottom of your foot. Okay, and so if your heel's coming up, if your toes are coming up, if one side's coming up more than the other, okay, those are the kinds of instability we want to work on eliminating. And so you want to try to kind of have your foot flat. That doesn't mean that if you've got high arches like me, you take the arch and try to push it down, because now you're extending your ankle in the wrong direction too far. But it's whatever the bottom surface of your foot is, that's what you want to make sure you can feel all of it in the ground. Okay? And so then as I move, and when I do this sideways, you'll be able to see a little better. Okay? When I do a pull step, I reach out past my center, and then I gather the back foot to it. So I don't want to lean back. I'm going to keep myself level as I travel forward. And so my head's not going up and down very much. Okay? And I'm not swaying. And then when I shuffle, same thing. I want to keep my head level as it travels. Okay? Now, it can be really hard to keep yourself honest with just your eyes' perception of what's going on around you. Okay? And so, like in the martial arts school, I am surrounded by mirrors. We got mirrors on every wall. Okay? On video, I have a couple of different reference points that I can use that'll help me see what's going on with my head as I move. And so you can do the same thing, whether it's like you set up your phone so that you can use the camera, or if you just pay really close attention to how things move as you're moving. And so as I move towards you, like my size changes as I come in. Okay? If I'm bobbing up and down, then I know I've got to be honest with myself about what's happening with my feet, right? And so what should happen with the pull step as you move forward, if I'm going towards you, okay, it's not jerky this way, but there's very clear front and back. The shuffle. Okay? And that's where we want to be. So the good news is, for everybody that is practicing at home, because I know that all of you are practicing this every day, you take 10 minutes to take all the things that we've gone through, and you just do all the things that Master Allen told you to do, and you do them every day, because doing them every day is the most fun and productive way to do the things and the stuff. That was a bit, and I didn't land it. But like, I know that most of the time you're going to practice like in class and then like a little bit at home, but not every day. And that's okay. And so, with the practice that you do, whatever it is you are doing on your own time, okay, take the warm-up that we've already done with the strikes and then put it together with the feet. And so then as I'm doing my 10 strikes, right? And so once again, I've got my vertical guide. I'm using the corner of the room to be a straight vertical line that I'm gonna keep track of whether my blade is moving smoothly or if I've got like, you know, a wavy kind of thing happening, okay? And now I'm gonna add the feet. So I come up, let me move so I don't watch that thing. There we go, so I come up. I'm gonna do a pull step. I come up, I go back, I do a pull step. Okay, and we do 10 of those instead of just 10 in place, okay? And if you're working on developing like the muscular stamina and training your shape and all that kind of stuff, then doing a little bit more and a little bit more and that kind of stuff Like if I do 10 standing still and then I do 10 with pull steps and then I do 10 with shuffles, that's fine. Okay. Next week we're going to add turning and a couple other things. I'm going to blow my nose really quick, guys. I'm sorry. Hold on one second. Okay. And then I start. Okay. So hopefully that makes sense. Being able to um, take footwork and your strike, kind of combine them together. We're going to do that as the warm up next week, so that we're working on the pull step, the shuffle step, and all the stuff we've done with the overhead strike. And we'll put that all into next week. And so we'll have a little bit different order to the warm up that you'll be doing on your own. Eventually, after you've done this and you're not having to take breaks to explain how to do it, like it takes like 8 to 10 minutes tops, even as we make it a little bit longer. And so then every time we come in, we'll do the warm up. It'll be like the first 8 or so minutes of class. I'll remind you of a couple of details, and then we'll go into whatever it is that we're going to cover that day. Okay. So, Ryan, how do you get more power? So, generally speaking, all right, when you're using a weapon, people think about power as being like, all right, so I try harder, I get more result, right? And so they think about developing power, they think about using a weapon as I exert myself more and then I get better result. And so that's sort of how people think. And what we want to do instead is, instead of thinking about getting more power, because then what happens is we tend to have like certain parts of our body try to do extra. What we want to do instead is make sure our whole body's working together. And so in a lot of martial arts, they'll talk about a kinetic chain. Okay. And so like kinetic chain is one muscle starts to generate power, the next muscle adds to it, the next muscle adds to it, and so forth. This is why a lot of boxing trainers will teach you to punch with your feet, because it's actually your foot digging into the ground and driving through that sends your punch out, not your arm, right? And so developing power with the strikes is often about learning how to make sure that the muscles that are tensing up aren't tensing up. Because what'll happen is, if I'm doing a strike and I want to hit harder, and so I think about I want to hit harder, and so then some of these muscles try a little harder, they exert a little bit more, and then what happens is it interrupts the kinetic chain. And so if I'm tensing up to hit harder because I'm really determined to hit harder, then I take power away from myself because I let some of it get stuck. And so what we want to be able to do is have a relaxed motion through our strike where the whole body's working together. So this is a long way of saying one of the ways that you get more power is make sure you're relaxed in your strikes. And relaxed doesn't mean like floppy. It means that everything is doing its job and it's not trying to do more than its job. And so if you remember either when you're learning how to drive a car or when you're riding a bicycle, if you squeeze the handle really tightly and your upper body gets rigid, then you actually have less control instead of more control. And so like if I hold onto the wheel really tightly and my arms are really rigid, I have less control of the vehicle, because every little bump and other things, like it sends me all over the place. And so it's harder for me to adjust the direction of the vehicle. With a bicycle, like same thing. If I'm holding on really tight, every bump has me going all over the place. I can't give with it. I can't absorb it. I can't, any of that kind of stuff. Okay. And so what you have to do is be able to be firm without being rigid. Okay. And so whether you want to think about that as like, there's language isn't ideal. I don't have a great word for it, but so like firmness is good, rigidity is bad, and rigidity hurts power. And so if you are at the phase where you are trying to add more power, then I want to stab Bob in the back here. Where do I need to angle? There we go. Okay. So what I want to be able to do is instead of trying to hit harder, I want to be able to be relaxed and let my body generate power without tension. So the power without tension is the part that's really important. Was that helpful? Does that make sense? It's tough when your questions have to be in text because then you can't add you can't add the way that like tone of voice and other things kind of modifies meaning. That can go there. I don't teach the forms. I don't like the forms. I teach martial arts. Everybody that's ever been great, the style is them. It's not the style they do. They have adapted the style to them, and so I've never especially liked the forms. I know a lot of people process lightsaber training through the context of the forms, but it's never been my favorite. I will be completely honest. All right. Does anybody else have questions? We had somebody ask about getting more power, to which, Dread Pirate Dad, good to see you. To which the answer is more relaxation. Often is more relaxation. Does anybody else have questions? Oh, my voice is just garbage today. I'm really sorry, guys. I'm doing my best. It's hard to talk. Oh boy. All right. Blind Dad Magic. I will get you in a second. All right, Kenny, what's your question? Uh-oh. Kenny has no signal. It's okay. We still love Kenny. All right, I'm going to answer this other question while we're waiting for Kenny to get sorted out here. All right, what is the tip on changing your flow so it's not choppy? So like if you're trying to do a flow where one movement moves into another, Brandon is actually, that's the phrase I was going to say, is slow is smooth, smooth is fast. And so like if you've got one movement and another movement and you can practice them separately, but you're having trouble combining them, like juncturing them together, then what you do is whatever speed you have to do the connection. So let's say I'm going from an Obiani to a figure eight. Okay, I'm gonna move back so that people can see me a little bit better. Oh, here we go. Kenny's back. Here we go. There we go. Which question?
My phone was being dumb.
That's okay. That's what phones are for. All right. So, what's your question, man?
I missed you step. You were just doing 3.
Okay. So you need the footwork again. I'll do it again before I log off, and then
yeah,
that's fine. Cool. All right. Yeah, I'll do it again. That's fine. Let me finish the question for Blind Dad. All right. All right. So let's say I'm going to go from like no beginning to a figure eight, and I'm having trouble with that connection, like the end of one into the beginning of the next. Immortal Red Riding Hood, good to see you. And so anytime you're connecting skills together, there's going to be like that. I only very, very briefly drove a standard, but there's that moment where it's like when you do it wrong. And so there's that moment as you transition from one movement to another movement that there's a chance it'll have that like gear grinding moment. Okay. And so what I do is whatever speed I need to go to do that transition smoothly, that's the speed I go until my body's gotten comfortable with the transition between one movement and the next, and then it'll speed up on its own. And so if you're working on transitioning smoothly instead of choppily, it's bring the speed of everything down. And what many people have a tendency to do is they'll have, okay, I have this part, da da da, ha, okay, and now I have this part, da da da, okay, all right. And so then they have one part that's at one speed, and then they stop, and they have the transition that's at this second speed, and then they have a third thing that is also at a separate speed, and you just bring everything down to the same speed, whatever that tempo is, and you practice it at that tempo. Musicians, athletes, it's like this, that's the process for everybody when you're working on that kind of thing. And so you just bring the speed, bring the tempo down until it's the speed that you can do everything at the same speed smoothly, and then you practice it at that speed until your body's comfortable with it, and then it'll get faster on its own. All right, so Kenny, footwork. So there's 2 footworks we're doing this week. Next week we're going to add one.
Really good.
It's everything. You just bring the speed down.
Go ahead. I'm probably lagging like.
Your audio is a little choppy, but that's okay. So we got two footworks we're going to do this week, and then next week we're going to add one. And so I'll go through those in a second. But on the speed thing, the tempo thing, okay. It's you have to give your brain the right amount of stuff to process. If you give it too much stuff to process, it can't process anything. Okay? And so like the example that we give is like, all right, so you're driving in the car and you get lost. So you turn down the volume on the radio so you can see better. And what's actually happening is you're turning the volume down on the radio so that you can think better. It's by taking away some of the information that your brain has to process, you make it easier for your brain to figure out what it needs to do. And so by bringing the tempo down, by bringing the speed down, I make it so that my brain doesn't have to do as much at one time, so that when I get to the transitions, my brain just has to focus on the transition. And then that'll help me smooth out that transition. And then one of the other things that you can do that will help you smooth out the transition, let's say you're working on something right-handed. The other thing that will help you smooth out the transition is if you work on it left-handed. Because what happens is it gives your brain the opportunity to kind of look at it from one side and then look at it from the other side. Because in order to have your non-dominant hand do the movement, you have to really, really think about how it is exactly your dominant hand is doing the movement. And so you'll be thinking about it through a different lens, and that will also help you improve your transition because you will have to think about it in a different way. And so by giving your brain the opportunity to kind of look at it from this direction and then look at it from this direction, that also helps your brain kind of smooth some stuff out. All right, now, Kenny, footwork. The pull step. I'm just going to do this from the side. We'll leave out the Saber for right now. Okay. And so for the pull step, I have my feet apart. The front foot is going to reach out, and I pull the back foot behind me. And so the pull step goes forward and then goes backward. And so I reach out and then pull myself to wherever the foot goes. Okay, that's the pull step. And so I do 10 of those. So you end up doing 5 forward, 5 backwards. And I switch feet. Okay. And then the other footwork is the shuffle. And so I set up the exact same way. And what I'm going to do is bring the back foot up, take the front foot out. Feet together, feet apart. And that's the shuffle step. Okay?
Okay.
All right, and so you do those footworks, and what you do, this is where you get the workout, is you lift up in a high guard, and then Okay. Madman, the so the difference between kendo footwork, HEMA footwork, and fencing footwork is minimal. It's also all really similar to Philippine martial arts footwork. There's certain things that are different, but it's like if you think about like a fencing lunge, the way that fencers lunge, it's very rare that you go all the way as long as you can, as far out as you can. What happens is you go and you either bring the leg back to center or you catch the back leg up so that you can go again. And so like all the body mechanics for the pull step, the shuffle step, and all that other kind of stuff, it's you see it in a lot of other weapon arts as well because it's it's what works. And so like in kendo and in fencing, most of the time people are right-handed, and so it's right foot forward, right foot. Right foot does the advancing step, and then the back foot catches up. That's also why like when you look at like Olympic fencers, and you'll see this in like kendo practitioners and some other stuff as well, because they are practicing so one side dominant at their level. You get one quad that's really big and one calf that's really big, and they are opposite each other because one is the drive leg and one is the land leg. And it's just one of those things that is like, oh, that's because of asymmetrical training. I'm going to not do that to myself because I don't need to be on your level. But for them, like they get so many reps at that level, it's unavoidable. Does anybody else have questions?
No, I like that. So on that back foot, not the one that you're using to step forward, do you suggest just catty corner or do you try to get it as even as possible?
So, let's do it this way. All right, you're about to get feet, people. Don't
I know
be weird
that
about it.
question was probably very, very confusing.
No. That question made sense. I'm going to show you. I got to figure out how to flip the camera. I don't know if I can.
Level up feet.
Here, Kenny, can you drop and I'll see if it'll let me flip the camera when I'm not in.
On the top.
Yeah.
I got you.
Oh, that's not it. Yeah, it won't let me. I'm going to disconnect you. There we go. Where is it? Nope. That's performance statistics. I don't care about all that. Down here. Flip the camera. There we go. Okay. And so everybody see how we have the line on the floor, right? And so I'm going to take front foot. It points forward. Back foot, I'm going to have at like a 45-degree angle. And I have my feet roughly the same distance apart as my shoulders. Okay? Curving, good to see you. Now, depending on your... my feet are right now, they're a little closer together than they normally would be just so that I can fit them both in frame. Now, depending on how your legs are made, most people are going to be most comfortable this way, where they have front foot straight ahead and back foot at like a 45-ish. Okay? You may be more comfortable with this foot turned all the way out. I am not. Okay? Some people take that front foot and they turn it this way just a little bit more so you get this kind of like a herringbone where I'm at a little bit of an angle with this foot, a little bit of an angle with the other foot. You're not going to be able to step as far forward, but some people feel a lot more stable this way. They feel a lot more comfortable. And so those are the two ways you set your feet, whether you're going to pull, step, or shuffle, and that's how you want to do that. And flip the camera. There we go. I appreciate everybody that was not weird about feet. Thank you. All right, guys, so that's the end of class. Just a reminder, Saber class is Fridays, 10:30 Eastern to 11. We ran a little long today because I had a big question in the middle. I didn't get through as many of the things as I wanted to in the first half hour. So we've gone almost an hour today. Once I get my legs under me a little bit, once I kind of figure out what this has to look like, then we'll do Mondays probably, maybe also at 10:30, and we'll see. And so Kenny, yeah, so like that back foot, I don't want to, it's now, so try it square to the side. You're never going to want to point it backwards because then your hip's going to be directed in the wrong direction for the type of movement we're doing. So you'll either, if you imagine, all right, so this is both my feet pointed straight ahead, right? And so I'm going to position like this. That back foot can either be sideways or kind of at a forward angle. If I want to turn that foot all the way forward, then I've got to square up my hips more, which you can do because that'll let you move in a different kind of way. I like having the hip turned out just a little bit more because my leg works better that way. If I square up the back leg, you see what happened with my hips as I did that, right? So now this back leg is square. Now my feet aren't on a line anymore. My feet are on separate lines. And so versus the way that I'm positioned, my heels are on the same line. And then so Kenny, ultimately what it comes down to is you practice it and try it and feel it and see what feels best for your body, because your knees and your hips and your feet are different from mine. And so it's all going to be like figuring out how your body moves best. And something I said just a little while ago is you look at like the great martial artists, their system was them. Like whatever style it was that they practiced, the thing that made them good wasn't the style, wasn't the system. It was that they had taken the system and adapted their body and the system together to be the most effective. And so that's the like figure out. It's like, oh, well, if I do this with my feet, where I've got that front foot turned out just a little bit, I got the back foot kind of turned like this. I work best this way. You know, other people it's going to be like this. Some people it'll be like that. And that's fine. All right, everybody. I'm going to sign off. Thank you very much. I'll see you next week and around and everything. Kenny, Ryan, everybody that had questions, thank you. Everybody that joined us, thank you. Remember, you do not need a lightsaber to do class. You can, we were talking to somebody earlier, like you can use a wrapping paper tube, you can use anything, it doesn't matter. Okay, I will see everybody later. May the force be with you.